So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for this afternoon's workshop on resiliency. My name is Rory Lee. I suffered a brain injury 5 years ago when I fell on the ice in my driveway. I'll be co-facilitating the workshop with Ross Goldberg, who does not have a brain injury that we know of.
Not known.
He's my husband, my support person, and my caregiver, so I think it's appropriate that he co-facilitate something for family members. And we have 3 panelists here.
Sue Morneau, my daughter Mindy Morneau was hurt and has a head injury.
Salah Zayed, my wife Hillary, she had the head injury. She fell off the horse in 2006.
And we heard her wonderful speech this morning, her keynote.
And Kathy Kroll, I'm a recreational therapist here, but my in-laws both sustained brain injuries and we moved them up here to Maine to be closer to us. At the same time, my father in Massachusetts suffered a stroke, so I'm torn between 2 places.
Great. So we've planned this to be an interactive workshop. We hope that each of you will participate when you're given the chance, which will be soon, because we'd like to learn with and from each other and not just have the experts here talk, even though they are experts. We have a series of resiliency exercises, that's our topic, that we're going to be doing. And the procedure will be that we'll have the panel give their answers to the various questions that we ask them first, and then we'll ask you all to join in. And I'm going to try to keep up with you and write things on the flip chart. So there's a worksheet in your packet that you can use to make notes on or to write things down so you can remember.
Sorry, folks.
If you want to say something, I know I have to write it down or else when they call on me and I can't remember what I was going to say.
Everyone have a pen?
Everybody have a
Pencil?
pen or?
Something to write
And
with?
there should be a worksheet in there that's, I think, 2 or 3 pages
I
long,
have an extra pen if anybody needs one.
that has, the 5 areas. Okay, so. There has been a lot of research done on resiliency, strangely enough. It's the quality that helps us get through our daily stressors as well as major crises that we may experience. Although some of the resilience is related to our innate personality type, and some people are naturally more resilient than others, there also are skills that we can learn and things that we can do that can boost up our resilience level. We have an article that summarizes 5 key actions that you can take to boost your resilience. And we will be giving you that article at the end, but we don't want you to sit and read it while we're talking. So we're going to give it to you at the end. And it's also to make sure that we can remember to give it to you at the end. So it's part of our therapy, right? Okay, the 5 key points on your worksheet are right here. Pump up the positivity. Anyone else remember that song about accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, something, 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 and don't mess with Mr. In-Between?
Yeah.
See, I'm dating myself now.
Yes.
But basically, try to find the good and the bad. Look at the positive. Don't just look at the dark side. Look at the bright side of things, the silver lining. Live to learn. View the experience that you're having as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to become a better person. Experience can be a great teacher. Open your heart is the 3rd one. Be willing to express gratitude and find ways to give to others. These all help you be more resilient. Take care of yourself, and this is something that you as caregivers have to be particularly aware of, is that you need to take care of yourself. Your physical, mental, and emotional well-being are important, not just to you, but to your person with a brain injury, whether it's a friend or a spouse or a child or whatever. And finally, hang on to humor. Find whatever is funny in the situation. And it may not be very funny at the time, but you can find a way later perhaps to look back at it. So Ross, you're going to start with number 1, I believe?
Well, yes, I am. And so let me tell you a story. I am an urban planner, and the city of Philadelphia contacted me through my office to have me consult with them about an issue they're having in the Fairmont Park system. So I go to Philadelphia, and we're standing in the middle of Fairmont Park, a group of the executives and me, and one of the group asks one of those really amazing questions, gets right, you know what I mean, right down to the meat of the issue. And in a few moments, it only takes me a few moments to really key in on the message to that person. And while I'm giving my discussion with this person,
Your brilliant answer.
my brilliant answer, thank you for supporting me in that. My dog Emmett makes one of those noises that the dogs make when they're sleeping, and they go like this, you know? And that noise wakes me up. And I'm no longer a prestigious planner, urban planner, thank you. No longer in Philadelphia, although Philadelphia is a great place to be. And I'm no longer an expert. And it just happened just like that, no longer an expert. So we know that everyone can be an instant expert in your dreams. But in the real world, getting good at something usually takes a lot of practice. And that's what this workshop is about. Resiliency is a skill that affects your relationship with your family member or close friend with a brain injury that's been affected with a brain injury. And no matter how good or bad any of us are at resiliency today, we can all identify areas that we could attend to improve. And this workshop is about practice, practice. Say it with me now. Practice. Thank you. So, I'm going right to point one. Yeah, thank you.
Because I'm managing you.
Good. Good thing, because I'm floundering out here on my own here. So pump up your positivity. On a good day, life can be pretty amazing. It's also true that when things don't go according to plan, we can be amazed at how challenging a good day can become. When you throw a brain injury into the mix, sometimes, not always, but sometimes, things can get really out of hand. Having a skill that reliably allows us not to ignore, but to think beyond the challenge of the moment, to what is good in the situation. Great, thank you. Can make a difference. So exercise one, and you all have your packet of exercises.
Mm-hmm.
Who has one of those? Show me one of those packets of exercises with the skills.
Yep, there we go.
Everyone have one of those? Can you hold it up? Okay, good. If you don't, let me know. Do we have extras?
I don't have extras.
I don't have extras.
Then if you
Look out with
don't
your
have
neighbor.
one, don't let me know about it.
Because it won't make a difference.
That's right.
Some things you can't change.
And
That's
so
right.
what we're going to do is here's the protocol. We're going to, we're going to be asking the panel to respond, then we're going to be turning the floor over to you, and I'm going to be helping you discuss the issue with the panel. And are you ready? So so exercise one. What positive things have come your way from having a person with a brain injury in your life? And I invite you to write your ideas down on the worksheet while the panel goes on. And let's start with Sue.
3 things that I wrote down was it gave me a broader vision of compassion. The second thing I wrote down was a deeper appreciation for family and friends. And it gave our family a new mission, and some of you have had the opportunity to come to our table, and that's called All Things Become New. And hopefully, at some point in time, we can help somebody else going through something that's really hard. Through our organization we're starting.
Could you repeat the second one, because I have a brain injury and I
Yeah.
didn't get it.
Sorry, a deeper appreciation of family and friends.
Thanks.
Salah.
Taught me to appreciate life.
Appreciate life.
I think I wound up having a better relationship with my mother-in-law, who sustained a brain injury. She actually scared me to death when we were first married. She was a very formidable woman, and she was very take-charge person. After her brain injury and other things, health issues happened, and she sort of let go of her ego. She became a person who thanked you for things. She was very needy, but I then began to see a person who, even later years in her life, could change. So I think our best years together as daughter-in-law and mother-in-law were after her brain injury. happen that way, but it did for us.
Yeah. So, we invite you to consider ways that having a brain injury in your life has changed things for you
In a positive
in a
way.
positive way.
Everyone looks at Ron.
Well, I did enjoy my short-term retirement. I retired in January of 2010. I had 8 blissful months all by myself until August. But it has been rewarding that the fact that kind of grown close to each other, and that I was able to take care of her, to understand somewhat what she was going through and help her, because like I said this morning, my brother had a stroke 2 years prior to that. So I was able to keep a focus and help her sustain a better life in the condition, to grow.
So, yep, grow closer to God. Anybody else? Yeah.
Well, I would say 2 things. One was, I never would have predicted that my husband had a stroke 14 years ago, that he would be so determined to get well, and he would be so strong. And so I've grown, I mean, I've seen a whole new dimension to him, and then for myself, I think I'm pretty proud of myself too, and I think it's true for all of us, that we all have an inner strength that maybe wasn't tapped before. And I've been surprised that, we've hung in there. And I don't think I'm alone. I think everyone in the room is probably tapped into that.
Well, humans as people are survivors. That's
Yeah.
what we do is, make the best of the situation. You can't change it.
Yeah.
So you just deal with it and move on.
Make best of situation. Good, excellent. More.
I still have some room here.
My husband and daughter have been able to, he's getting an opportunity that a lot of dads don't get. We were late in life for having her, and he was 46 when she was born. And he had 3 children from a prior marriage, and, did the whole thing, work 12-hour days, not have that opportunity. He's now been able, he's her caregiver when she gets home off the bus from school, and, they try to do some activities together. I was telling you at lunchtime, she's an old soul at 9. She really has she has a better understanding about brain injury than a lot of adults in our life. And she knows what Dad's limitations are right now, but it's giving him that time, that father-daughter time that a lot of parents don't get.
Boy, that's priceless.
Yeah.
That's priceless.
For both of them,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
See a lot of heads nodding. What else is going on? Other ideas?
Education, I mean, I thought I knew a lot about stroke and brain injury. Boy, not until you become a caregiver do you really begin to know. So I think they were good teachers for me. Certainly knocked me off my feet with what I didn't know, but they were good teachers.
I think the word is getting out a lot more today than when Voices started, like Laura explained at some of the meetings, that 5 years ago when you started, there wasn't hardly anything about brain injury. And now my brother was in that situation, he fell through the crack because there was nothing him to go to learn something about this stuff. So it has, it's come a long way with the support group meetings and having the right people, the right place, the right time to start Voices and to grow. Hopefully there'll be other advocates out there that'll join our group and move up into different areas of the state. So
Well, the war in Iraq and Iran, I think, Afghanistan rather, have a lot to do with
Yep.
awareness, because we have a lot of veterans coming home. Same thing with prosthetic limbs. There've been big advances with that, and information is getting out there because of all the veterans coming home, and they have all these problems. So that's helped. I mean, it's a bad thing, but the positivity out of it is, out of bad things, we're starting to get educated, the rest of the world about issues that normally they wouldn't think twice about.
Anything else from the panel before we move on?
And that is the signature injury of the wars in
Sure.
the Middle East, is the brain injury, traumatic brain injury and PTSD.
Another thing it taught me is be more involved with your loved ones and spouse, children. You know, it's like you take advantage before anything major happens, and you think, you know, like, when did I ever go to a doctor's visit with my wife? You know, that's her life. You know, you know, like talk about being closer. That's what brings you closer. I feel so much more involved by being part of every decision made. You know, we sit down and we calendar together. We do everything together. And before the injury, we didn't do that stuff. We expect it. We take advantage of it. So that's what, you know, I learned, and it turned out to be very positive, very, very positive thing between the two of us.
I think I learned how to say no, because that was so important as a caregiver, to be torn in many different directions. And my job is in healthcare field. I really had to learn to say no to preserve me, you know, so that I wasn't, you know, overextending myself. And that was a hard lesson to learn, because as a parent and a caregiver and a mother, you want to do it all, and you can't. So starting to learn to say no, so that there was something of me left.
And that's the perfect segue for
Yeah.
me, because we can't overextend our time and we have to move on. So, on to point number 2.
Point number 2, live to learn. Well, I'm a lifelong learner and got my PhD at the age of 50, and I've been an educator all my life. So I really believe that every situation that we encounter is an opportunity to learn something. The more challenging the situation, strangely enough, the more opportunity we have for really important and life-altering learning. And it's certainly been the case for me with my brain injury. There are things that I have learned about myself, about my relationship with my spouse, about the world, that I would never have learned without having had a brain injury. Which is not to say I would want to have a brain injury. But in order to learn from our situation, we may have to change how we talk to ourselves. Has anyone here asked themselves, why did this have to happen to my loved one? What did we do to deserve this? Am I a bad person? Because is that my punishment? These are very common questions that people ask, especially early on in the course of recovery. But how do you feel about yourself when you ask those kinds of questions? They tend to ask us to blame or judge others or ourselves. They keep us trapped in the past, which we can't change. And they also portray us in more of a passive rather than an active role. Why did this happen to me? Not why did I do whatever, but why did this happen to me? So resilience is about acquiring the ability to acknowledge what is, to live in the present, but also to look toward the future. I've heard it described not just as bouncing back, but being able to bounce forward. It means changing the question, why did this happen to me, to what can I learn from this experience? How can it help me grow? This lets us be much more active, both as learners and as participants in our lives, and it can help us be empowered. So the question is, what has brain injury taught you about yourself, others, or life? And we're starting with Salah this time.
It's funny how, you know, not funny, but you were saying about blaming people, you know. First thought goes to my mind, you know, when the injury happened is, boy, she asked for it, you know, and that's the wrong thing to say, but you always, why did she do it, you know, like she fell off a horse, and I remember I went through that part of, in a way, blaming her. She didn't have to ride, you know, she was asked not to, but she still did it. But then learning and going through with her what she's going through I had to teach myself. I had to get over the anger and stop liking myself to start liking her. I learned to love myself and try to keep my life still going and not stopped. I made sure to learn that her life has stopped right now. I'm gonna have to be strong for her to make sure that her life will move on. Learning is a hard thing when it came to brain injury, because who knows anything about brain injury? When that happened to us, we didn't know anything, we didn't accept it, we denied it for the longest time. And it took us a lot of learning and a lot of talking through support. I learned so much from support. I learned that from people that already has been in that situation, that just hearing how they're gonna survive and how they're surviving, I learned how to live again. We keep talking, Hillary and I, about the first time we came here and we, to one of those conferences, and there was all these people and the panel run by injured people. And I looked at Hillary, I says, that'll be a great day for you if one of these days you're out there sitting, not on a panel, you know, and giving this keynote speech, just sitting with those people, because we're so far from them. I learned patience and learning. That is gonna help us, you know? And patience, love, learning, and accepting, forgiving, loving yourself. That's where I start from. I can go forever, but that should be enough. That should be enough.
You filled the page, we're all set.
Thank you.
Kathy?
Certainly I learned more about brain injury, experiencing it as a caregiver, and that helped me to be a better care provider in my profession. I think I also learned how to let things be. You know, I have to admit, I've got a control streak in me, and I wanted to make things better for my in-laws, and I wanted my in-law family to help me out, and that just wasn't going to happen. And once I finally let things be and say the solutions are already there, what's gonna happen is gonna happen, it is what it is, it took that burden off. That didn't happen overnight, but I think just reinforcing to myself that, you know, let it be, it'll be, you know, we're gonna be okay.
Sue?
Um,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm about 16 to 18 months into a time period where I'm my wife's sole caregiver. She had a vascular stroke back at that period of time, perhaps a series of them actually. And the one thing I'm just waking up to and criticizing myself for having taken so long to do this is, and it's my experience of learning how to live or about life, that so much is up to she and I behaving as a team to get on top of this thing. She has probably, like anybody else, if you count them all, between her, she's a diabetic as well, but, you know, maybe 18 to 20 medical practitioners that are hovering around at any point in time. And upon reflection, I will just wave my hand in 2 years, excepting for the fact that, you know, she's got 4 stents that she never had before and all of that. The support and the help we get to move on and adjust and live our life from the medical community at large is somewhere between none and none at all. And so you have to fashion, in a sense, a process yourself and devise a program, your wife and I, my wife and I in this case, to learn how to deal with it and to improve the quality of your life down the road. And truly, for the last 16 months, there's a gentleman on your panel here this morning, Don Starr. We go back quite a few years, and he touched on this too, and that is that you for some period of time, I hope it's going by, you're waiting for a medical practitioner to say, well, here's a new process, here's a new pill, here's a new therapy, and things are gonna be good after that. And that's the way we've lived our lives, because we've had good health histories up to this point. Well, that's all over now. And so now I've discovered that my wife and I have to throw in and form a team, and probably the idea of behaving like a team got lost. We've been married 50 years. It probably got lost 25 years ago, somewhere along the line. And now we've got to, in a sense, regroup. And that's, I think, the only time we're gonna be able to enjoy some success here. And I'm not talking about cure, but I'm talking about improving the quality of the life. And so that's my life lesson that's taken, the gestation period's been about 18 months now, and I think we're kind of on top of it. But
Great.
It's new, it's just happening.
Sue, sorry, we skipped over you.
Oh,
Do you
doesn't
have anything
matter.
to add?
Just something that we dealt a lot with was the criticism of other people looking at NIMBY situations, saying, well, she just get a job. So when I was thinking positive, I was thinking of all the emotional baggage that that put in my life, trying to explain to them that she really does have a head injury. So what happened in the process of dealing with other people's criticism, it made me realize that I had those criticisms in me. And so the positive thing out of that, it has dealt with that and almost alleviated that. Like some of you I'm meeting for the very first time today, and I don't even care what's on the outside. I don't even care what the injury is. You know, I'm seeing a person that's going through something difficult, that's given me a lot of compassion, and I don't care, well, there's nobody here with a whole bunch of tattoos and earrings and piercings, but you know what I mean? Like, for so long I lived judgmental on the inside, and I could hide it. Because I'm a people person, I can talk to anybody. But it really helped me deal with that part of my life.
Yeah, personal growth. Anybody else have time for one more in this section? Sorry, we didn't have open this up to you soon enough here. Keep going.
I mean, you need to be their advocate. I mean, I am my husband's voice. I do attend every doctor's appointment, all those things that you talk about. I mean, I don't care if he's going in to have his ears flushed out. I mean, I am there. And, you know, and always trying to find the best care. I mean, I found out about this by reading in the newspaper. I mean, you know, we don't have these groups where we are, and so trying to find support and the education is so important, because if at least you can educate yourself, I mean, you're gonna hope that they're gonna get to that point with you at some point. But at least at this point, I might be able to answer those questions, like you say, when people.
Well, you're gonna start a support group. You're gonna be an extension of Brain Injury
Yeah.
Voices right over there.
Yeah, I know, I thought about that at lunch, that maybe this was my
They'll come up and
calling.
here.
It's your new calling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll come down and help you, and they'll come up and help you.
Yep. Converge in the middle.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay, we're gonna move on to number 3. We'll come back and add to these if we have time at the end.
So open your heart. This one is about empathy, giving and receiving empathy, or stated, I think, more appropriately, expressing and acknowledging empathy. And these are skills that are absolutely worthwhile getting really good at, no matter how good you might be at them already. Knowing someone cares and showing someone that you care can make a big difference. And I am going to express this exercise 3 a little bit differently than it's written in your handout. What are some ways recently, and we'll start with the panel, that you've given the gift of empathy or allowed yourself to receive the gift of empathy from someone else? And let's see, Kathy.
Okay, Kathy.
I'm trying to think, because I feel like I'm a fairly empathetic person too. I mean, this is why I'm in the field I'm in. I think receiving empathy has been from my sister-in-law, who's now the caregiver of her mom and is going through cancer, the 3rd round of cancer, and she's my age, and she seemed to be the one I connected with the most, who sort of just understood. So I think certainly she gave me support when I was the caregiver, and now to be able to call her up and sort of understand what she's going through. So I think we've shared that back and forth to each other, and that's been a really special task, because there were many times I would say during the process of being a caregiver, I wanted to say, what about me? Somebody, you know, what about me? Because I don't think a caregiver gets enough hugs or support, and she was one person who I did have that for.
So I'm going to change the format a little bit and invite comments from the panel and from the audience at the same time. So anyone who has a thought to share?
I'll share a real quick thought. I'm a people person, so like receiving calls from friends and family would be important to me, and I find that like there's times, like I'm gonna be down here for 3 weeks because of Mindy with these seizures, that I'm not getting that. But what I've done is, when I know somebody's going through it, I call them. I let them know I'm thinking about them, you know, if I hear in a crowd, like your story, I relate to, I gave you my card. I want you to call me, I want you to call me crying, because I did that to Carol Starr, you can ask her. A couple times I wasn't sure if Mindy was gonna make it through the day. And I would call on my way to her apartment, hoping she'd be alive when I get there. So,
So the
You know?
ability to recognize that in other people now.
yeah, and really want to be empathetic to what they're going through. It's been huge for me. It's given me a whole new world that I didn't want. It's a road I don't want to be on, but I've accepted it.
You're walking in their shoes.
Yeah. Anyone else? You open your mouth around there, you get cold.
All you gotta do is breathe.
Breathe and talk.
Yeah.
Don't move.
Well, the two of us come from a bit of a different, different story, I suppose, than we've heard here. Our mother was we were all in the same accident 24 years ago. And she suffered from a very traumatic brain injury. She was in a coma, didn't know who she was, didn't remember things, had to learn how to eat, all kinds of different things. But a lot of these positive things, we've tried a lot of this stuff, and it's not.
Well, I think we were so young when it happened. I was 3, he was 5. We never knew our mom without a brain injury. And I think it took me until I was in high school to realize not all people are like that. So it's kind of.
But for her, it's progressively gotten worse, not better. So it's difficult for us to relate to a lot of the positive energy that everybody's feeling here, which I think is great. So I don't want to open my mouth, because I think that everybody here is fantastic, that everything's moving in a positive direction for everyone here, and that they have, that there's people like all of you to support, the person that you're helping every day along the way. But where we find it progressively more difficult to support the person, which, who is our mother, and we're responsible for her still being here. We were the ones that at 5 and 3 crawled out of the car in the middle of the woods and walked and got help, and then they came and rescued her, so you feel kind of like, almost like you did it to yourself by, saving her. But it's good that she's still here, we're happy to have her, but it's difficult.
Boy, that's being very honest, thank you.
It's not always that way, though. When I married my wife, her father had a stroke, and I never knew him without a stroke. And he lived a long time, but she always used to tell me he wasn't the same person that used to be her father. And she still loved him, and she wished that I knew him the other way. But he progressively, over 20 years or so, got worse.
Yeah, it's
So it doesn't always go positive, and you still have to deal with that too.
So
And luckily, most of the people here have had positive
absolutely.
things happen, but it doesn't always happen that
Sure.
way, and you still have to be able to deal with that too.
And the idea really here isn't to acknowledge what's been positive, but to acknowledge the option for a positive perspective. And to acknowledge the skill that you can use. You can develop the skill to see, along with the negative that might be there, might be resident. The negative might be resident.
Yeah.
But there's also an option to perceive what might be positive in the halo around them, or in the overtone over there. That is an opportunity. People mention that here we have a brain injury in our life, but that's given me the opportunity to spend more time with my children. So it's the ability to look at what might be out there as options.
And
It's really
also
what this is
the
about.
expressing gratitude part, that your mother has had the life she's had because you have been there, so even though it may not have been the life she had planned or had wished for, you've been able to help her have the life that she's had.
She's not so happy with her life.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, so,
That makes it worse.
so that,
Yep.
so, you know,
Makes
there's
more
been
stress
that,
for
there's
you.
been the suicide attempt, and there's been the request of suicide, you know, can I please, you know.
Yep.
There's been the real suicide attempt, not the jumping off the 86th story and hitting the 85th story.
Mhm.
So it's,
It's hard.
Well, no, yeah, well, it is hard, but I mean, almost 25 years of it, it's actually not that hard anymore. It's kind of.
Kind of like normal.
Complacent.
You were normal.
It's
Become
What's that,
normal.
does she still
Feel
feel?
the guilt.
She does, I don't know, maybe, perhaps, but yeah, she's, you know, it's almost as if it's, you know, you're numb to it. I mean, we're here,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, if we didn't care anymore, we wouldn't be here.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's definitely positive things that have come of it. I mean, you're able to do all kinds of stuff that you see other, or deal with all kinds of things that you don't even realize you're dealing with, that other people, you know for sure couldn't, or wouldn't be able to, or deal with it that particular way. So it's interesting to look at
Yeah.
it, look back on it like that. And I think everybody in here has those same kinds of traits and qualities,
Yeah.
that we can all deal with certain things that we didn't know we could deal with, so. I
You
mean,
discover strengths you didn't know you had.
Yeah, it's all, and who knows, you could
Put that one down.
change that.
So we're time bound. Sheila,
When my son had his traumatic brain injury, after the months in the hospitals and stuff, he came home to live with me, and I knew nothing about a brain injury, nothing. And so it was very difficult. He was getting very angry, and it was directed to me and my daughter. He thought we were trying to take over his life, and we were just trying to help him. And then when he was out on his own, I was the only one that went to support group, and I was getting to understand a brain injury and what that was all about. And I was trying to have my kids understand that, but like my two older sons, they just didn't grasp it at all. They just had, this is Andy, he looked the same, he, well, to them, he acted the same, and it never was the same,
Well, unless you're there every day, you don't see all these
Right.
things,
Right.
that caregiver sees.
Yeah.
And with my wife, it's the same thing. You say something to the doctor, oh, she looks fine to me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you see her 15 minutes every week, that's it.
You
Yeah.
feel guilty when you have to describe what the person
Right.
is really like,
Yeah.
because everybody says, oh, they look fine. And
Well,
it's
no
just
one's
like-
gonna believe it, so
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna record her now, so I'm recording some of our conversations where 1 minute she's nice as pie, and then she goes off on a tangent because she thinks she remembers something.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, she's mad at me because of something she thinks she remembers.
Right.
Doesn't have to be real, but she thinks she remembers
Yeah.
it, she's proud she remembers it, and she's mad at me because she remembers it. And I've gotta keep quiet or pretend I know what she's talking about, try to diffuse it, and it gets tough.
Yep.
But
So
doctors,
you're bearing witness to
you know,
things that other people.
doctors, even family members, don't see
They don't
the
see
stuff that the caregiver
Yeah.
who's with them sees. Because they spend a day with them once in a while, or a 15-minute doctor appointment.
it brings,
So people just don't understand or see the things the caregiver sees, or believe what they're told.
it's an important point, and it brings us really, in a way, to point number 4, taking care of yourself, which
They'll
is,
go with the segue again.
that's right, that's a great segue.
This is so great with segues.
Taking care of yourself means doing things, and we're focusing a little bit on time here now. Taking care of yourself means doing things that support your physical, mental, and emotional health. Dr. Stephen Covey, in his 7 Habits series, refers to taking care of oneself as sharpening the saw. The airlines, of course, tell you always to put on your own air mask before you help your neighbor with theirs. There's an old Jewish text, Pirkei Avot, the sayings or the ethics of the fathers, and there's one saying by Rabbi Hillel that starts, "If I am not for myself, who then will be for me?" Taking care of yourself is the first and best way to make sure you're able to take care of others. And so let's have a conversation about that. We're not going to go into protocol, we're running out of time, just whoever wants to bring thoughts to the table.
How do you
Taking
take care of yourself?
Well, keep your regular schedule, no matter what. I mean, if you're working, keep working. You going to the gym? Keep going to the gym. You have a hobby, do not stop. You might have to change and be flexible, but I would refuse to stop what I was doing. I was a busy bee, and I wanted to stay busy, and I couldn't stop because I would go crazy. I couldn't help her if I couldn't be happy. I had to be happy with myself, you know, and that was the thing that I believe, kept us, you know, in line and strong and move forward, because I did not stop my schedule. I mean, Hillary, with her brain injury and all, she stopped, but she was very strong. She was not gonna give up. So she was gonna find a life for herself, and she's gonna do something. But that's when I tell the spouse or the partner, whoever is, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself, do not stop. You know, you gotta be the strength, you gotta be the pillar at home. And if you are weak, it's over. So,
Keep on keeping on.
I, on the other hand,
Yep.
was the opposite. I had to stop my schedule, I couldn't work, I had to shift responsibilities, I had to get off committees, I had to stop doing things I like to do because our care is in Portland. So I think healthcare for me would be, I gotta get walking and not eating in the restaurants.
yeah.
But I was the opposite, it had to change.
And I didn't stop work, but I definitely rearranged my work schedule. I wrote a proposal making it feel like it was supporting the hospital, and it was. I was going to extend and do four 10-hour days. And that was so important because it gave me Friday, that a day I could say was a me day. And I'm one of those horse lovers, so it made me able to go to the barn, and that was my therapy, to be with my horse, to brush him, just, even if it was only one day a week, at least I got there. Because so many other things got put on the back burner when you're going to doctor's visits, or, you know, vacations don't happen. But that rescheduling my work day was really, I don't think I could have done what I did if I was working 5 days a week, so.
Time for yourself, what else?
I think letting go of, you know, wanting, wishing things had been different.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
because I have to constantly remind myself that, you know,
Forgiveness, really.
well, yeah, and just that, you know, she's not the mom I wish I had. I'm not gonna have a lot of things I wanted to have, but I have her.
You're there for her. Both of you, you're there for the support.
And I think you're acknowledging that
Yeah.
it's a loss for you, not
She's
just
there
the
for her more
person
than
with
I
the
am,
injury.
but,
Mm.
it's,
You know, I see two siblings there that seem like amazing people.
Right.
So you, as are you brother and sister?
appearances are deceiving.
Well, no, joking's good
She's super
too.
nice.
Yeah.
I think I have the,
Yeah.
she put up with it for a lot longer
Yeah.
than I did. So we, our mother actually won custody of us when we were kids, after the brain injury.
Wow.
And then took us to Hawaii, which was on the other side of the planet from our father, who's in Maine. So the saying in the family, we have a very different type of family, is she was crazy and then she got into the car accident. So, yeah, we have a different, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize for my shirt.
Oh, we think it's hilarious, we wanna get her one.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
no, we've dealt with it all. So, you know, it's more difficult for her because she stayed in Hawaii during high school with my mother by herself. And I flew the coop as quickly as I possibly could. But she stuck it out, so I think it's a little more difficult for her being
Yeah.
a daughter and having
feel
a
like
mother.
you just grew up a lot faster.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know?
And you have to
I
acknowledge
felt
your own losses.
like- Yeah,
that you've-
and I felt like I've had a child
Right, yeah.
for 20 years, you know, doing things for her, apologizing when she'd have these horrible outbursts, and so letting go of wishing things were different.
Yep.
I think is what I have to constantly remind myself to do.
And I let go like 10 years ago. You know, it's never going to be different. I realize it's going to always get worse. And it, you know, once you come to that realization, in my case, you know, in other people's cases, you can see there's progress and people start to get better, and that's like, to me, that's like so so fantastic to hear those stories, because it just means that, you know, not everybody with a brain injury or
Goes
or
through,
who-
goes through the stuff.
yeah, is going through this,
Right. Yeah.
you know, ridiculously,
Never ending.
never ending, and it's just like a, you know, snowball effect.
Yep.
For everybody not having that, it's kinda nice to know that that's out there, whereas, you know, eventually you realize that's the way it is, it's not going to get better, it's going to get worse. You just have to realize, once you realize that, it makes things a lot easier.
Yep, so you make your own peace with it.
My wife's the same situation, she had seizures and brain surgery, she's not getting better. She was getting a lot worse before the surgery, the surgery slowed it down. So I try to point out to her when she gets mad, hey, at least now you know your grandchildren. If you kept going the way you were, you
Yeah.
wouldn't have. And then when we're fighting, it's, why did you make me have the surgery? I might have killed myself if I hadn't.
Yeah,
You know, so it goes from one extreme to the other. But the thing I find important is, it's not her fault, she didn't ask for this any more than you or did or I did. You know, and I have to keep reminding myself the tough times is, hey, she didn't want this either. This isn't her choice, it's not her fault.
and another thing that I think is really helpful is, I've done a lot of traveling in my career, and I realized, you know, ours, the way we grew up, it was pretty tough. You know, it was not, definitely not a walk in the park, it was quite difficult. There are people out there that have it so much worse. I mean, and not to bring anybody, you know, to make it sound like nothing's big here, but it really, it's nothing compared to what some people deal with every single day and have dealt with every single day since they were born until they died. So, you know, we're all lucky, and don't ever get mad at the person with the, you know, the injury, even though it's so easy to get mad at them. It's not their fault. It might be tough, but somebody's always got it worse.
And that's a great
Sometimes too, you have to get mad for a while,
Yeah,
and then.
Outside the
go
house.
back.
exactly. No, you're right. No, absolutely right.
It's all right.
I fought a tree a couple times.
Yeah.
Another perfect segue, moving on to humor. Point 5, hang on to humor. And I have to tell you another little story. During one of the brain injury support groups at Brighton that Kathy participates in, and actually Kathy does an amazing job at, Rory referred to one of her personal strategies, choose to be amused. And almost immediately, another brain injury survivor, our friend Karen Perry, adopted the phrase. And over the years, she's become a skillful practitioner of hanging on to humor. And Karen laughed and said, of course, when I asked her if I could use her name today to promote humor as a strategy. So choosing to be amused is an option. Choosing to be amused is an option. So let's talk about it here. And what insights do we have on bringing humor into the situation that we are all encountering? Again, open feedback. Bring it up.
Humor helps, without a doubt. I mean, you gotta look for the positive, and you gotta look for the funny. My wife, one of her seizures, you know, they transgressed from her just standing there with a dazed look in her eyes to her carrying on what she was doing. I came home from work one day, she was in bed, so I knew she had had a seizure. She'd go to bed for 17 hours, even if she just woke up. So I came home, I went out back, I was splitting wood. She woke up, she came down and asked me where the brownies were. Brownies? I didn't see any brownies. So we went upstairs, I opened up the oven, there's the brownie pan in the oven with 2 plastic packages of brownie mix in it. Another time, she went and got the mail and she was gonna take a shower. In between the two, she had a seizure. When she came out of the seizure, she was standing in the kitchen holding the mail in her hand naked. So our guess is she got got undressed to take the shower, had the seizure, went out and got the mail. Fortunately, we live in a rural area. And we didn't start getting a lot of neighbors visiting. So either they saw her and she scared them off, or they didn't see her. We're not sure which. But, you know, we can laugh about these now, you know, and it's good for her because, you know, hey, she didn't get hurt. You know, but you gotta find the humor and stuff because there's so many bad things that happen that if you dwell on the bad, it's depressing.
Totally, which is going back to the first one, which is try to find something
All
positive.
things are related.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, in a roundabout way, you
Yep.
know, but, you know, by finding humor and stuff, you find the good in it. You know, and to be able to laugh is
Yep.
good for the soul.
Yeah.
Sheila.
I know when Andy first came home from the hospital, my roommate was living with me and she was going through chemo and stuff. And so she was with Andy a lot and, Andy kept saying that he was, retarded and stupid and stuff. And for me, it broke my heart, cause I didn't want him to feel that way, but he and Lynn could joke about it. And he always, you know, had things that he and Lynn could joke about, and they talked for hours, which I'm so thankful for, because he couldn't talk to me like that, but he could talk to her.
And I see you two laughing at each other here now.
Yeah, I don't think they wanna share that story.
There may be one they don't wanna
I
talk
think that's
about.
the only thing that keeps us
Yeah.
You have to.
partially sane. Well, our mother is she's hilarious. She's so funny. I remember this is a funny story. Niece, she doesn't like when I talk. Niece is very socially awkward. But my mother had this cat. And she loved this cat. We think she probably killed the cat on accident, but she took very good care of the cat as best she could, you know, but for whatever reason, the cat got some kind of asthma. So my sister worked at a veterinary hospital and said, you know, you should probably put the cat down, and we all thought that would be best. So we had to go with my mother, who loved the cat, and to put the cat down. And my mother she was a wreck, you know, before the cat was gonna be put down, you know, she wanted to be in there and say goodbye to the cat. And I don't like to see things die. You know, so I didn't want to be in the room and say, euthanize this cat, I like the cat. So I'm standing out in the hallway, and my sister and my mother walk out, my mother's got something wrapped up in a blanket, she goes, it's a boy. But she's holding the dead cat after it died, I'm just like, you know, and she was sad, but that was how she dealt with it, you know, and I think the funniest time
That was what it was like growing up.
that's what it was like, when she was in the mental hospital, oh, that's good, okay, never mind, I'm
We're saving the sister here, let's move on.
Anybody on the panel?
Yeah, I remember after Hillary's injury, she was in an art class. I mean, what could go wrong in an art class? Somebody was cutting a piece of metal or something, and she was sitting behind, and he hit her right in the head, knocked her out. I drop her and I pick her up. They call me I'm supposed to pick her up at 9 o'clock. They call me 8 o'clock, say, come pick your wife up. I said, no way. She got another hour.
I need that hour.
I'm having a good time.
I got
I said,
plans.
I don't think so.
I got
He
plans.
goes, no, your wife had a concussion. I said, what are you talking about? She had a concussion 4 years ago. He goes, no, today. I said, all right, I'll be there. I don't know what happened. So I get there, she's on the floor, she's dazed, you know, and things look bad. So I knew I had to take her to the emergency room. That's what, they know us there. Benefit, you know, we've been there quite a bit.
Got your own room.
Yeah, so we started driving there, things are looking really bad, you know, and so I see DQ. And I look at her and say, how about it? We know it's gonna take us forever in the emergency room. Let's go have some DQ. She started laughing. She says, why not? So we went, and that broke the ice, and that really started lifting her up. Just a DQ, till now she's hooked on DQ.
Hey, life is short, you always have time to stop for
Absolutely, I
ice cream.
said, emergency room,
So that's what, instead of calling an ambulance, we're gonna get a Dairy Queen.
yeah,
Now,
so.
when you call the ambulance, have them pick you up at Dairy Queen.
Dairy Queen, we're at Dairy Queen.
What could happen at the dairy?
And you were about to say,
We had that DQ and went to the hospital.
You know,
That was good.
our 9-year-old, like you said, you know, these two have been saying about growing up with their mom. I mean, our daughter is growing up with this. And they have this parent loop at her school, and it's like this Gestapo thing. You know, you have to stop to drop your kids off in the morning, and you know, don't park your car, anything, say goodbyes before you leave the house, boo, 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 get the kid out the door, boom, bye, see you, have a great day. I mean, it's this insane thing. And I change my work schedules, I can take my husband to rehab, and we drop her off at school on the way, and so it's a hectic little morning going. We get there, someone has parked a car and left it there.
Oh, yeah.
In the parent loop, and my daughter just as quick in the back seat, she goes, well, I wonder if they have a brain injury. Because she, you know, she's just, you know, yeah, she gets it, she just does, you know. I'm thankful she's old enough that if God forbid something did happen at home, she knows how to dial
Yep.
911.
Yep.
my husband doesn't have cooking privileges unless I'm in the home because of some minor fire issues and pots and pans and spatulas and things, but, and he's accepted that, but, you know, I'm at least glad she's at least aware enough of what's going on with him. And
Great.
in our house, we have 2 H's, we have humor and we have hope. And I said, without the 2, you cannot get by.
That's a
And that's another
great,
great segue.
great thing
Right.
to end on.
Yeah.
So, I see a lot of resilience in this group, and it's certainly a skill that can be learned, and that you've been able to come up with some really good examples of each of these 5 areas. So we do hope that this has allowed you to exchange some ideas and come up with some ideas for improving your own resiliency. Please remember to fill out your evaluations, because you'll need to turn those in order to get the little ticket taken off to get in the drawing. And there's one final exercise at the bottom there for you to do for yourself. A specific thing that you're gonna try to do to pump up your resiliency. So maybe you're working on 2 of these areas or 3 of these areas, and there's an area that you wanna work on. So think about something specific you can do. We also have an article for you that we got these from. Kathy is going to pass those out to you. And thank you so much for joining us for our conference.